My name is Julia Jacobs, and I use my maiden name, which was Ginn, professionally, because I did dance in the opera when I was in high school, which was Hunter High School in New York City, and then went to Hunter College. All of this in the speech and drama field. I got a master's in speech and theater. And after that, we moved to Sullivan County, and I was able to latch on to teaching in the schools and the college. And I also was able to get, I volunteered at first as an arts administrator to arrange programs for our arts council, which I started. And it was very successful at our small college, but people came from all over, including I got Joe Papp, the great producer, interested in bringing 150 Mexicans from Mexico to do a play called Blood Wedding in Sullivan County in Spanish, believe it or not. And it was also very successful. Joe Papp came up to view the play. I don't know exactly the date that it was finally published, but it was about 1926. And then it did go into production after that, about the same year. About 10,000 people in a huge snowstorm. But from what I understand, snow doesn't stop people in Minneapolis from attending concerts. And that's what I've heard about it. And also it says so in many of the reviews in Alberto Bimboni's scrapbook.
Were the reviews good?
The reviews were very good of the opera, yes.
Have you ever heard any of the music from the opera?
No, unfortunately not. Would you like me to tell you what happened to it when
Sure.
we tried to
Absolutely.
well, Winona Bimboni, the daughter of Maestro Bimboni, was a friend of mine. She was a ballet dancer and teacher in Sullivan County, and we became great friends. She invited us for dinner one night many years ago, and she's knowing my interest in the arts, I guess that was the reason. She said, Julia, I do not know what to do with this opera that my father wrote. Why don't you take it and see what you can do with it? So my eyes lit up because I love anything in the arts, and I came from an opera family way back. I said, all right, Winona, I'll take it. Years went by, and we decided through our arts council connected with Sullivan County Community College that we would try to hear parts of it so that we would know what it sounded like. Right. Because in those days, they did not record a whole opera. You can turn on the radio and hear a whole opera today. But so we got together with New Paltz, the college, and everybody volunteered to help. We got a whole program put together, including selections in the first part of the program of general opera arias. And the second part was supposed to be selections from Winona. And doing this, I did a lot of publicity, including getting the American Indian League involved to come to the program. We charged very little money.
Because the opera is about Indians, correct?
The opera is about the American Indian,
right.
And it's about an Indian girl Alatoska, I guess, who throws herself off a rock because her father wants her to marry another man whom she is not in love with. We also got the soprano to sing that part, and that was to be in the second half of that program. We had an audience who came. We charged very little admission, $2, $3, just to cover the expense of using paper and printing programs. And New Paltz donated the theater. And after the intermission, the manager of this evening, yes. Well, actually, it was during the day, but that doesn't matter. Came to us and said, "We will not go on with the opera, Winona, unless you promise us a percentage of money for whenever or wherever this opera will be performed."
Wow.
And Winona, the daughter of Bimboni, was there, of course, and she said, "In no way." And none of us said, "Yes, this would be a great idea," because we never heard the opera, for one thing. Second of all, we were all volunteers. Nobody had put any money into it.
Uh-huh.
And the strange part, I hate to tell this story, but the opera singer that was to sing that role was 20 years older than her manager, and it was so obvious to everyone that she was madly in love with the manager. And so she was crying backstage.
Now, she never got to perform.
But she never got, and we gave everybody their money back, and that was the end of the almost performance of Winona. I happen to also own the scrapbook that I don't know who, either Winona put it together or her father put it together, but I have all the news clippings of the opera in that scrapbook.
Did you ever meet her father?
No, her father was long since gone when so I only knew Winona herself. And she was a very fine teacher as well, very disciplined. I know that Maestro Bimboni and Winona herself both worked at Chautauqua for many years.
Yes, and there were two girl dancers that are still alive in Cleveland, Ohio. One of them, Donna Lamb and Sheila Smith, and they remember being in the corps de ballet that she directed and choreographed.
Oh, really?
And there was
I didn't
a
know that.
man who was, I think she dated for a while, by the name of Fred Tyler,
Yes,
who was very, very fond of her, and he was a baritone.
well, I know that she was married, but for a very short time.
Very short. I knew that too.
Yeah.
I told you when I came in here today
Yes.
that I worked with Winona Bimboni in Cleveland, Ohio in 1943, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. She was the choreographer, and we worked with a man by the name of Handel Wadsworth, who was at one time had been an associate conductor of Victor Herbert's, and he had an operetta company in Cleveland. And I was a little kid in 43. I was 13 years old, and I played all the kid roles.
Oh, my.
And all the character roles that I could get by with a wig on and play an old man, I played it.
What fun.
And because I tap danced and because I could move well, Winona would choreograph eccentric numbers for me. And in every show I would do an eccentric dance. And I remember her so very well.
She was a very powerful, strong woman. And if you got to know her, she was a very wonderful person.
Well, she was very beautiful also.
Yes.
To me, at that time, at
yes.
any rate.
Yes.
Statuesque with long blonde hair. And she loved her dancers.
Yes.
And she stood by them no matter what problem was occurred. She would stand by the dancers.
I hope in my lifetime that I do see some kind of, play of this opera. Can you imagine? I, of course, have done some professional acting, and it has always been rubbed into us. Whether there's one person or no persons in the audience, the show must go on.
Absolutely.
And this was the most horrible situation I think I've ever lived through in the theater, because that woman, I don't know what was in her mind, but it was a horrible afternoon. And so Winona hopefully will be taken apart and maybe get some selection so that the world can hear it. Without the arts, we really are nothing. That's the most important thing, and people hope will realize that today. And when I hear particularly schools cutting out their arts program because it teaches them how to read better, how to discipline themselves better. But this has nothing to do with Winona itself. But that's my background in wanting to see something like this continue.